What if your entire life has been lived inside a masterfully crafted dream, and you've never actually woken up? What if everything you know about reality, the universe, and even yourself is merely a shallow slice of the truth? What if the memory of your soul's origin was never truly lost, only buried beneath layers of subconscious programming? You've always felt that something was off, that the world is missing a piece, that there's something deeper, a quiet calling from within, urging you to awaken. They taught you that consciousness is a byproduct of the brain, that gods are just myths, that death is the end. But what if that's only the outer shell of a much larger design, one meant to keep humanity in eternal slumber? There exists a figure, a timeless symbol, a keeper of the key to immortality, to cosmic truth, and the deepest spiritual awakening. In ancient Egyptian lore, he was known by a name, Thoth. And once you begin to truly see, there is no going back. Thoth is not merely a god from ancient Egyptian mythology. He is a symbol of intelligence beyond the limits of time and space, an immortal soul journeying through the ages to deliver codes essential for the evolution of human consciousness. In the earliest records, he was called Jehuti, the one who rewrites the fate of souls, the creator of language, sound, and the foundational principles of material reality. But his true role is not confined to temples or religious symbols. Thoth is the bridge between dimensions, between the material world and the quantum realms where ancient knowledge resides. Unlike other deities tied to the myths of a single people, Thoth appears across multiple civilizations. In some places, he is known as Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes the thrice great. In others, he is experienced as energy, as frequency, as visions arising in hypnosis, soul journeys, or when accessing the Akashic records. The ancients believed only those truly ready, those spiritually unlocked, whose minds had broken free from the illusion, could access the layers of knowledge Thoth preserves. This wisdom was never meant to be written in conventional form. It is encoded in symbols, in the laws of vibration, in the very structure of sacred geometry, where light and frequency converge to create reality. Thoth once said, "Thought is the most powerful force in the universe. What you think, you create." A short statement, yet powerful enough to collapse every structure of control governing this world. Because if humanity truly understood this, they would no longer be manipulated by fear, limitation, or any external system. Thoth does not teach like a priest. He embeds layers of energetic codes, unfolding gradually based on the readiness of each soul. Each passage in the Emerald Tablets is not just ancient text. It is a blueprint of reality. Read at the wrong frequency, it seems like a poetic allegory. But when your consciousness resonates at the right vibration, every word becomes a trigger, an awakening key that stirs something ancient within you. Could it be that Thoth represents a superior species, a star seed from the constellation of Lyra or Sirius, a being from higher dimensions of consciousness? Or perhaps more simply, he is the deepest part of you, the part you've forgotten? Whatever name you choose to give him, one thing is clear. Thoth has never truly left. He is simply waiting for the souls who are ready to resonate with the call. There is a legend that has never truly vanished, only wrapped in layers of skepticism. The legend of the Emerald Tablets, believed to contain the most sacred knowledge Thoth ever left behind for humanity. Not a book, not mere text, but a spiritual map, guiding the reader through layers of reality to the very origin of life, death, and the soul's rebirth. No one knows exactly where they are hidden. Some say beneath the pyramids, Others speak of the halls of Amenti, a dimensional realm where time stands still. But all sources agree on one thing: those who vibrate high enough, those who can truly call upon them, will be guided to this knowledge, whether through dreams, deep meditation, or a mysterious inner pull the mind cannot explain. Within the Emerald Tablets are declarations that strike the core of every awakening soul. As above, so below. As within, so without. A seemingly simple phrase, yet it holds the blueprint of the entire universe. Each level of personal consciousness is a reflection of a greater reality. The universe is not outside of us. It lives within us and mirrors back through every wave of thought, every unresolved emotion. And because of this power, the tablets were hidden from the masses. For they do not simply reveal knowledge, they hold the potential to decode reality itself, to escape the control matrix, to transcend the cycle of material reincarnation, and step into conscious immortality. Ancient magicians, mystical orders, and esoteric schools have referenced fragments translated from the tablets, but never the whole. There's a reason for that. Because unless your soul is truly ready, those truths become illusions. You'll read them through the ego, not through the heart. In one of the most mysterious passages, Thoth speaks of traveling across dimensions, surpassing linear time, of living in multiple realities at once. This mirrors what modern quantum physics is only beginning to explore: the ability of consciousness to exist across dimensions, not just observe reality, but shape it. Have you ever felt a déjà vu you couldn't explain? Ever known something you've never learned? Perhaps you are rereading what you wrote lifetimes ago. The Emerald Tablets do not come to teach you. They come to activate what already lives within your DNA, what science labels as junk DNA, but the awakened know as soul codes. And this is the question every soul must answer for itself. Do you dare to read, not with your eyes, but with your heart? Are you ready to remember what you once were? There exists a dimension spoken of in ancient carvings, in Egyptian mythology, and throughout the Emerald Tablets, the Halls of Amenti. It is not a place one can reach with a map, but a gateway that opens within the deepest layers of consciousness. There, time does not flow linearly, it rests like an ocean. Past, present, and future coexist as overlapping waves, and those who can access Amenti are those who can swim through these streams by will alone. Thoth does not refer to Amenti as mere symbolism. He describes it as a real place, a realm where souls return between incarnations, where the oldest wisdom of the cosmos is stored, where the masters, no longer bound to physical form, watch over the material world, waiting for the right moment to appear, guide, and awaken. Thoth speaks of his immortal brethren, beings who can consciously leave the body, travel among the stars, and reincarnate into new forms, carrying their memories and a mission to awaken humanity. They are the ones who emerge from Amenti, the threshold between the seen and unseen worlds. To the unawakened, Amenti is but a dream. To the awakening, it is a deep memory, not from this lifetime. To the initiated, those who have expanded their consciousness, it is the place where they meet their highest self. So how does one enter Amenti? There are no rituals, no chants, only the purity of will, the yearning for truth, and the willingness to release every image you ever believed was you. For in Amenti, there is no place for ego, only the soul, naked, radiant, standing before the cosmic library of all memories since the beginning. Some have described, in deep meditation or near-death states, seeing an endless hallway lined with glowing doors. Each door leads to a fragment of universal memory. Some call it the Akashic Records. But Thoth insists, Amenti is not just a data vault, it is a living space where souls choose their next lessons and beings of light gather to orchestrate planetary awakening. Have you ever dreamed of being someone else, living in a different civilization, not as fantasy, but as if you were there? That is not imagination. That is Amenti calling. Have you ever felt something waiting for you beyond a mental threshold? Perhaps the door is already opening, and if you dare to walk through it, you will never be the same again. You will no longer live from borrowed memories handed down by society. You will begin to live from soul memory. Amenti is a space of transformation, where death is no longer a fear, but the final lesson before you truly become a creator. And when you leave Amenti, you won't just carry knowledge. You'll carry the fire of rebirth. Since ancient times, humanity has feared death. But to Thoth, death is not the end. It is a threshold of transformation, a moment when the soul returns to the molding hands of creation to continue its evolution. In ancient civilizations, especially in Egypt, one was not considered truly alive unless one understood how to die. Not to avoid it, but to move through it, consciously. Thoth never spoke of death as punishment. He saw it as a mechanism to shift consciousness. In the Emerald Tablets, he wrote that those who know how to leave the body at the right time, in the right way, will no longer be bound by the blind cycle of reincarnation. He describes the masters, souls who have learned to die without losing themselves, to exit the body without dissolving, and to return to the physical world in new forms when the world needs them most. Have you ever wondered why some children are born with wisdom far beyond their years? Why do some souls feel ancient, even at the age of 10? Perhaps it's not their first times here. Thoth called them the guardians of the gates of rebirth, souls who choose to return, not out of karma, but out of mission. They are not pushed into reincarnation, but enter it as travelers bearing light. This is radically different from most of humanity, who die in fear and are reborn in forgetfulness. Each cycle becomes another layer of dust, obscuring the soul's memory. But the miracle is this: anyone can transcend. Thoth never portrayed himself as an unreachable god. He left behind a formula, a map to transcend death, for anyone who longs deeply enough for freedom. And that formula begins with thought. Because death does not begin in the body. It begins when you consent to the belief that you are only a limited physical form. When you believe this is the end, you get pulled into the loop. But if you realize that you are immortal consciousness, light wearing a temporary shape, then you cannot be destroyed. You only change form. Just like a wave doesn't disappear, it merges into the ocean. Thoth taught the ancient initiates how to pass through the door consciously, through breath, through heartbeat, through observing the point where mind and body intersect. He describes the states near death, where time dissolves, and if you can keep your flame of awareness alive, you can leave the body as one who steps through a veil. You won't fall asleep. You will awaken in another realm. This is no longer just a mystical theory. Modern research on near-death experiences, deep meditation, and past life regression all confirm one thing: consciousness is not fully dependent on the brain. And if that's true, then death is not a boundary. It is a gateway. Thoth never promised physical immortality. He simply offers a choice. to live eternally in forgetfulness, or to live awakened and die as a creator. Those who truly live do not fear death, because they understand that life never ends. Only its form changes, so that we may remember who we are. There is a strange truth echoed through every ancient civilization, from India, Egypt, and Greece to Tibet. The soul can return, not as a vague, automatic process of reincarnation, but as a conscious return, carrying wisdom, memory, and an unfinished promise. Thoth once wrote that he had lived through thousands of lifetimes, not to learn, but to guide. In each return, he brought fragments of cosmic knowledge, planting seeds of awakening into the human collective. He is not just a single identity, but an intelligent field of energy, taking on different forms and names throughout time. Hermes Trismegistus, Enoch, Pythagoras, or unknown mystics hidden in secret orders. They do not seek recognition. They only seek to transmit. But the real revelation isn't just that Thoth reincarnated, it's that we do too. Over 75% of people watching videos about awakening, Atlantis, or Thoth often say, "I feel like I've known this before. I remember this. I'm not reading it, I'm understanding it." Have you ever felt that too? A lesson that feels familiar the first time you hear it? An ancient story that brings you to tears as if you had lived it? That's not a coincidence. That's a soul memory. Your soul has known. It has walked. It has been part of forgotten civilizations, Atlantis, Lemuria, or unnamed dimensions beyond time. You have learned and forgotten. And now you are learning again to remember. And sometimes you choose to return, carrying a mission, to remind others, just as you are beginning to remember yourself. This is why you often feel different. Why can't material life, school systems, jobs, and the news satisfy you? Because your soul didn't come here to fit in. It came to awaken. Thoth once said, "When the time comes, the ancient souls will rise in new forms. They may not remember clearly, but their hearts will resonate when they hear the truth." If you've read this far and feel something stirring within, then maybe you are not new here. You are someone who has returned, not to repeat the cycle, but to complete what was left unfinished. Reincarnation is not punishment. It is a soul's choice. When you understand the laws, yet still choose to return to this 3D world, to rebuild what was broken, to reignite what was extinguished. You didn't come back to escape. You came back to activate. And you are not alone. Many souls like yours are awakening, slowly but surely. Those who call themselves sensitive, different, or who always see beyond the veil. That is not a flaw, it is a sign. You are a torchbearer, carrying the ancient light of Thoth, Hermes, Isis, Akasha, returning to rebuild a world that forgot who it was. So, don't lose heart if you feel out of place, because you are the signal of change. You were not sent here, you chose to come, and now you are beginning to remember. Thoth was not merely a witness of reality, he was one of its architects. In ancient inscriptions, he describes a principle that is simple yet revolutionary. The mind is the source of all things. Reality is merely its reflection. At first glance, it sounds like poetic philosophy. But when properly understood, you'll realize it is a tool for world building. You are not living in a fixed world. You are living in a precise reflection of what you believe to be true. Observe closely. Those who believe life is a battle always find themselves betrayed, hurt, and struggling. Those who believe they are small and powerless constantly face situations that reinforce that belief. It's not because the world is punishing them, It's because they are unconsciously aligned with a reality field created by their frequency. Thoth called this the magic of pure thought. Not imagination, not wishful thinking, but the ability to shape material structure through spiritual alignment. Imagine a still surface of water. Each thought you have is a stone thrown in. Every ripple that expands outward becomes an outcome, a situation, a person you meet. You may not control the world, but you always control what touches the surface. So the question is not, what is the world doing to me? But rather, what frequency am I bringing into the world? Thoth teaches that every structure in the universe, from galaxies to cells, from emotions to events, follows a set of geometric and vibrational laws. They are not manipulated by willpower or desire, but by the purity of consciousness. You cannot demand a better reality if your mind is still clouded by doubt, fear, or resentment. You cannot attract a soulmate if you haven't befriended yourself. You cannot awaken if your mind still clings to illusions. And you cannot create a new world while holding on to old beliefs. Thoth did not come to teach you how to dream. He came to teach you how to remember. You don't need to learn how to create reality. You only need to remove the filters that keep you from realizing you've been doing it since birth. Every thought, every definition of who I am, every sentence you repeat in your mind daily is carving an invisible blueprint into space. And space always listens. Thoth wrote, "The one who knows who they are sees everything as themselves. The one who forgets sees everything as against them." That's why those entering the path of awakening often face disruption. Not because they're doing it wrong, but because the old world is collapsing, making room for the new. You cannot keep the same thoughts, the same vibration, the same beliefs, and expect reality to change. You must be reborn in consciousness, layer by layer. This is not a theory. This is the truth Thoth left behind, expressed in the simplest yet most profound principles. As above, so below. As within, so without. Do you want to see the world shift? Then observe how your mind is shifting. Do you want to touch a different future? Then start thinking like the person in that future, right now. You are not a victim. You are a creator, whether you remember it or not. If there is one force that binds humanity more than fear, it is the belief in time. We grow up in a world where past, present, future is taught as a fixed, linear path, irreversible and absolute. We believe we are moving from point A to point B, born, then die, evolve, then decay. But Thoth says, time is not a straight line. It is a spiral of energy. He describes time as a spiraling field, where all moments exist simultaneously, but on different vibrational layers. Just like multiple radio stations broadcast on different frequencies. You don't create the program, you just tune in. So if past, present, future all exist at once, what determines where you are living? Your consciousness. When you recall an old memory, you are activating a past frequency. When you imagine a joyful future, you are interacting with a real timeline, vibrating in parallel. This is not fantasy. Modern quantum physicists like David Bohm and Carlo Rovelli have also suggested that time is not an absolute constant. What we call time is just a way of measuring consciousness in motion. Thoth teaches that when you understand, accept, and align with this principle, you gain the ability to regress into past lives to heal, jump into higher frequency timelines, even experience the future before it unfolds by living with its consciousness now. Time is an illusion, not to be denied, but to liberate yourself from the false power you unknowingly gave it. Thoth refers to those who master time as the rememberers. They do not fear time passing. They use time as a tool to select reality. When you think, it'll take me 5 years to heal, you're signing a contract with a timeline where that's true. But when you believe, I can change right now, through awareness, choice, and frequency, you begin to shift the time map toward the version of you that is healed, free, and radiant. Thoth once wrote, "The one who understands time will never be ruled by it." So if you feel trapped in a loop, a chain of memories, a destiny that seems to repeat, remember, you are not being punished. You are simply replaying a frequency loop because you forgot you can change the record. And how do you change it? By changing your awareness, changing your beliefs, changing the version of who I am you wear each morning. When you begin to live as if you already are your highest self. When you feel gratitude, as if the miracle has already happened. When you act not from lack, but from inner abundance. You activate a new timeline, and that timeline begins to organize people, events, and opportunities to match you. Not because you attracted them, but because you have become the frequency where those things already exist. That is what Thoth left us. Not a myth about a god of time, but a reminder. You are the one rewriting time, one moment at a time. Thoth is not merely a figure from esoteric history. He is a frequency, a consciousness, capable of reappearing at any moment through anyone pure enough to carry it. The Egyptians called him Jehuti, the god of wisdom, scribe of destiny, and keeper of the soul's balance. The Greeks merged him with Hermes, birthing the legendary figure Hermes Trismegistus. From this, the stream of Hermetic knowledge began to flow. But more important than the mythology is this: Thoth never left. Not in the mythical sense, but in a profound spiritual truth. Consciousness can reincarnate without losing memory. For ordinary souls, each rebirth comes with forgetfulness. But for those refined in spirit, each return carries the map of old knowledge, ready to plant seeds of wisdom for humanity. According to many traditions, Thoth is one of those beings who never truly die. He is not bound by reincarnation as a cycle of fate, but uses it as a soul selection tool. Was he Enoch from the Old Testament? Hermes of ancient Greece? Pythagoras, who brought sacred numerology into the world? Or the sages of the East? Or even anonymous scientists and modern-day visionaries? The name doesn't matter. What matters is the consciousness operating behind those eyes. And if you've ever felt a deep resonance when reading about Thoth, if you've ever felt a wordless memory, a whisper of, "I've known this before," then perhaps you are part of that continuation. Rebirth is not just changing bodies. True reincarnation, according to Thoth, is this: consciousness can choose its body, its mission, and retain cosmic memory. That only becomes possible when you no longer live through the ego, but through the soul. When you're no longer bound by social identity, gender, nationality, but recognize yourself as a light being who came to earth with a very specific purpose. And if you've ever asked, why am I here? Why do I feel like I don't belong in this world? Why do I feel like I woke up earlier than others? Then maybe you are remembering, not through the mind, but through light-coded DNA. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth wrote, "There are those who do not die. They leave the body when the mission is complete and return when the earth needs them." We now call them star seeds, walk-ins, indigo children, and ascended masters. Names shift with time, but the energy remains one. They carry a primordial memory of the universal truth, of a higher order of light. They live among us, unassuming, uncelebrated. They teach, they heal, they say things that may seem strange, yet somehow feels profoundly true. And maybe you are one of them. You don't need to prove anything. You only need to remember and begin living in your highest frequency. Rebirth doesn't only happen once every few decades. Rebirth happens each time you dare to release your old self, to live as a soul having a human experience. And when you do that, you are not just continuing the path of Thoth. You become the embodiment of Thoth. Here, now, Thoth never saw death as an ending. To him, death was merely a shift in state, a doorway into a deeper layer of reality. In Egyptian mythology, Thoth was the scribe of souls, the witness during the weighing of the heart ceremony that determined whether a soul could enter the afterlife. But his role was far more than that of a cosmic secretary. Thoth was the one who understood the architecture of the afterlife and how to transcend it. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth speaks of the halls of Amenti, a space beyond time where souls can recharge, learn, and choose their next journey. It is not a hell nor a heaven. It is a realm of refinement, a chamber of consciousness transformation. For souls not yet ready, Amenti serves as a place of healing. For awakened souls, it becomes a launch pad to consciously design their future. Thoth tells of masters who do not die in the usual sense. They leave the body deliberately, enter Amenti, and reappear where light is needed, not through unconscious reincarnation, but through intentional return. This is the model Thoth left us. No fear of death, no fear of endings, because he knew death is merely the dissolution of the temporary, a return to the eternal. And when we truly understand this, we no longer fear. Not loss, not separation, because no one ever really leaves. They simply change frequency, like water evaporating into a cloud, then falling once more, continuing the sacred cycle of life. Thoth left a sacred reminder: live as though you have already died and returned with purpose. Let that phrase echo in your heart. Live as though you have already dissolved, already left this body behind, and now you've come back with a clear reason to remember, to help, to illuminate. When death is no longer the enemy, life becomes luminous and light. You no longer rush. You no longer cling to things that don't belong to you. And in that moment, you finally begin to truly live. Thoth teaches that when a soul passes through Amenti with awakening, it can travel across realms, access the library of the universe, what we now call the Akashic records. There lies every soul memory, every possibility, every timeline you've ever walked or could walk. And from that space, you can rewrite your destiny. This is not mysticism. It is the intentional work of consciousness, of your deepest self, operating beyond the boundaries of the body. Today, quantum scientists are beginning to glimpse this truth, that consciousness can exist independent of the brain, that you are not confined to this neural vessel, but are a field of intelligence, observing and generating experience. Thoth knew this thousands of years ago. He didn't need a lab. He saw through inner sight, through the frequency of a soul fully awake, and he invites you to do the same. Not to escape death, but to decode it, move through it, and live no longer ruled by it. You are not a victim of time. You are the navigator of its maps, just as Thoth was, just as you are becoming, now that you've chosen to walk the path of awakening. Thoth didn't leave knowledge to be worshipped. He left a map for action, a universal operating system, not meant to be read passively, but to be practiced. Every one of his teachings, from the Emerald Tablets to Hermetic Mysteries, points to a single core truth. Human beings are not merely human, they are creators. And the greatest act of creation is not the outside world. It is the reality you live in each day. Thoth didn't want you to just contemplate the cosmos. He wanted you to become an active participant in it. So how do we apply Thoth's wisdom in modern life? How do we go beyond theory into living truth? Step 1. Redefine yourself. You are not your name, your job title, your gender, or your email address. You are consciousness temporarily residing in human form. And from that awareness, you can shift every frequency you emit. Thoth said, "What you vibrate becomes the shape of the world you experience." When you live in fear, you attract experiences that validate that fear. When you vibrate in gratitude, clarity, the world mirrors those qualities back to you. Start with your personal experience. Each morning, what frequency do you choose? Each reaction, are you being steered by unconscious programming, or are you consciously shaping your response? Step 2. Engage with reality as a living system. To Thoth, the universe is not a machine. It is a conscious field, alive, responsive, reacting to your beliefs, emotions, and actions. You do not pray to beg. You connect to remember that you've always been part of the divine. And from that space, you speak to reality as a partner, not a victim. Step 3. Understand time as an energy field, not a ticking clock. Thoth taught, past, present, future all exist at once. The question is, which stream are you synced with? You can heal the past through your present vibration. You can influence the future by the choices you make now. When you change your energetic frequency, you shift to a new timeline. No need for struggle, just awareness and consistency. Step 4. Decode symbols. Thoth transmitted knowledge in symbols, metaphors, sacred geometry. Not to confuse you, however, symbols bypass language and transmit energy directly. Learn to observe symbols in your dreams, intuitions, and art. They are the language of the soul, and when you understand them, you access a level of knowledge beyond books. Finally, small actions are repeated daily. You don't have to awaken overnight. You only need to live a little more consciously than you did yesterday. Begin with noticing one limiting belief, transforming one heavy emotion, listening to your body as an energy map, choosing a thought that uplifts instead of diminishes you. Each of those steps is a journey home, and when you live this way, there is no need to preach. Your presence becomes light, and that light spreads effortlessly. That is how you live Thoth, not by memorizing him, but by writing the sacred tablets anew, not with words, but with the way you live, vibrate, and show up in the world. And if you've come this far, perhaps you're beginning to remember what your soul never truly forgot. Not all memory belongs to the past. There are things you've never learned, yet you know. Never read, yet you understand. Never been taught, but when you hear them, your heart tightens as if it had always known. And perhaps Thoth is not a distant god. Perhaps he is a layer of you, a version you are now returning to merge with. Because everything you've just walked through was not meant to be memorized. It was meant to activate what already lives within. You may have once been the one who carved the tablets, the guardian of the halls of Amenti, the bearer of the staff and spiral etched into your palms. You were there. And now you are being remembered. You don't need to prove this to anyone. Truth does not require credentials. It only asks that you live it with reverence and awareness. And if any part of this video stirred something within you, know this: you are not alone. The community of those awakening is growing, quietly but powerfully, like an underground spring. If you feel ready to go deeper on this path, don't hesitate to leave your mark in the comments below. I understand. I am remembering. Share what you feel, because someone out there may be waiting to hear exactly what your heart is holding. And if this video resonated with you, send it to someone, a soul who's beginning to remember. Be sure to follow Inner Alchemy, because the next videos will take you even further into the mysteries of lost civilizations, into awakenings beyond the limits of language, and most of all, into the vast being that lives within you.